Welcome to the Realizations Podcast. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and I'm excited to explore the world of real estate with you. In a world where perceptions often overshadow reality, Realizations seeks to redefine what it means to be a realtor. Join me as we peel back the layers of the industry, uncovering inspiring stories and celebrating the good in real estate. Whether you're a homeowner, a fellow realtor, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Realizations, where perceptions meet reality. Let's dive right in. So, welcome everyone to Realizations. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and today I'm very excited to be talking with Shawn Wright in Nashville, Tennessee. Shawn is a broker with 3 offices, and he also serves on the city council. So I want to talk with him about what it is to be a realtor, where he is in Nashville, and also what government and real estate and the intersection of the two mean to him. So welcome to the show, Shawn.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm in Murfreesboro, Nashville's biggest suburb, and the intersection of real estate and government is very, very important. Realtors need to know where growth is happening. They need to know how zoning works. They need to know what's going on as far as the development planning and development planning and strategic planning of a city goes, because that's important for a realtor to know. Where are schools going? Where's the infrastructure going? Where is sewage going? How does different zoning and ordinances affect the real estate business? And that's something that, as far as a realtor that pays attention, if you're in the government affairs committee with your board, you get to keep up with all the goings on of government. And in my specific role, I get to look at it from both sides. How does my decisions as a city council person affect the real estate business? How does the real estate affect the government side? What is good growth? Is this good growth, or is this bad growth? Is this smart growth? Are we putting the infrastructure in place to make these developments better for the community? How does this development affect the community? We're in an area, Murfreesboro, Tennessee has been in the top 20 fastest growing cities in the country for 25 years straight. So, and we've been in the top 5 for most of those. So when you think about that kind of growth, we're having 100 people a day move into our area. Well, when you have that kind of explosive growth for 20 years straight, how do you even keep up with the infrastructure to keep that city growing and to be inhabitable? When you look at it from a realtor's point of view, we can kind of look at it and go and help the government kind of say, this is what the market dictates. Do we need starter houses? Do we need mid-range houses? Do we need luxury houses? Do we need townhomes? And so from a realtor's point of view, we get to educate the government on what the market is demanding with the growth or with the decline in growth that area has.
That's really where I am in Berkeley, California. It's just the intersection of government and real estate is very, very scary, to be honest with you. We have absolutely draconian rent control in our area, which is very dangerous and creates problems, honestly. And we also have people on the city council who are advocating things like the repeal of something called Costa-Hawkins. Costa-Hawkins is the only thing that stops single-family houses from being subjected to rent control.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. In fact, it's on the ballot on Tuesday, and hopefully it'll lose again. They try it every single time. There's also something called the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act where I am, which is that you would, it's adopted in San Francisco. They always try to put it on the ballot here in Berkeley. I don't think it'll pass, but we'll see. That is where the tenants are offered to purchase the property that they live in for, I believe it's 5% less than the top offer received.
Oh my God.
So what happens, that's why they call it the People's Republic of Berkeley. Yeah. So what happens is a realtor is subjected to putting a property all the way on the market, going through everything you go through to put a house on the market. And then the seller could be set up to have to take 5% less than their top offer.
Unbelievable.
It's So stupid. And also we have incredible point of sale transfer taxes here. Do you have transfer taxes where you are?
No, we don't.
Okay, we have $15 per thousand.
Yeah,
That
so
is,
this is
yeah.
why so many people from Berkeley and all around California are moving to Tennessee. We're
I know.
we're one of the fourth least tax states in the country, and we do things a lot differently here.
Do you have property taxes? Yes.
We have property taxes, but for instance, I live in about a 3,600 square foot house in a very exclusive area of my town, and it's probably a three-quarter to $1 million house in my area, which is more than double the median.
Hmm.
And my property taxes for a year are $3,600 a year.
Okay, want to puke? My property taxes are $20,000 a year.
Yeah, so that's my point. That's how much cheaper taxes are here. And you move my house to Berkeley, and it's probably
$4 million.
$4 million.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So there are civic differences everywhere you go on every level for realtors. So I have a question for you. In Nashville, or in Tennessee, I should say, do attorneys finish the transaction, or do realtors carry it through from contract to close of escrow the way we do here in our part of
So,
California?
so we are not an escrow state. We're a title state. You want to work with a title company that has at least an attorney on staff, if not attorney owned, but there's no requirement to have an attorney there. So we write our own contracts. We give them to the title company, give them to the mortgage company, and the title company takes it to close. We do not escrow. We are just a
Right.
straight title state.
See, in Northern California, we handle all the paperwork all the way from start to finish. Title company doesn't handle any of our realtor paperwork.
No, they don't handle any of
Yeah.
our paperwork either.
Okay. In Southern California, the title company essentially takes over once you get a property into contract. They handle the file and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So there are differences everywhere. How many pages long is your contract, out of curiosity?
Not counting disclosures, just the straight contract's 10 pages long.
Okay.
And interesting, when I got into business 22 years ago, the contract was 2 pages. So in 20 years, it's gone from 2 pages to 10 pages, and it's all because of this lawsuit or this lawsuit or this
Yep.
disclosure or this
I
request.
always tell my clients every line is a lawsuit.
That's
Our
right.
our our contract is 17 pages long.
Wow.
When I first got into the business, bless her heart, my little auntie Elma Dagmar had been a realtor in like right after World War II. And she gave me her box of books to do with real estate. And someone could still sign a contract on one page in California with an X. You didn't have to know how to write your name.
Wow. So the biggest thing that I've noticed that changed in when I first got into business, the same hard copy, wet signed piece of paper went everywhere. So the
Yeah.
buyer's agent would take, or the buyer's representative would get it wet signed. You would take that contract, drop it off at the listing agent's office. They would then get it wet signed. Then you would take that same wet signed copy, take it to the title company. They would then make a copy and send it to the mortgage lender, and that one wet signed contract would stay at the title company, and everybody else would get photocopies of it. And
Yep.
then we were allowed to fax them, and then now we're allowed to digitally sign them. But in 20 years, it's went from the Stone Age to tech
No,
age.
trust me. I used to drive around with a Thomas Guide in my lap. I used to have a cell phone that looked like a shoe.
Yep, that's right.
I used to,
And an atlas.
yeah, exactly. And we didn't have a multiple listing service the way that we have it now. I'm really worried with all of these wars against clear cooperation, what have you, that we're going to be in a situation where multiple listing services go away somewhat. I think it's really important for people to join their realtor associations and stay abreast and on top of what is going on, as you say, governmentally, but also just within the industry itself, because there are a lot of people out there that are making big, huge decisions that really will affect your life as a realtor. And if you really want to be part of the solution, you should get yourself involved in those things. I was on the board of directors of our association for over 15 years. I'm still on the board of directors of the multiple listing service, even though there's a little bit of a conflict of interest with me working at Compass, to be on that multiple listing service board. But I do believe that everybody deserves the right to be able to check into whatever properties are available. I think it's super important. So talk to me a little bit about two things. One of them is your mentoring of your agents. Why don't we start there? Give me a little bit of background on that.
So I when I got into business, my family's been in the real estate business since before I was born. And when I got into business, I went and found shiny things. I didn't go work for my family. I went into the big office that had the shiny objects and said, "Hey, I'm going to go here." And hey, we give all this training, we give all this stuff, and these new agents, you walk into the door of these shiny objects, and these shiny objects go, "Well, get out there and work." Well, what do I do? Come on, let's go out there. Where is there? Where am I going? Where
Yeah,
are these
exactly.
sellers? And I think one thing that I learned from that, I worked there for 5 or 6 years, then went back to work for family, and here we are 15, 16 years later, and we've got three offices running and growing and moving forward. And the one thing I learned is there are a lot of good agents that with great potential that get lost in the shiny objects.
Hmm.
And they could be great representatives for buyers and sellers. They could be great for the community. They could be great for the real estate industry at large. And they get lost at the shiny object. They lose focus and they get out of the business before they even had a chance to be successful. So one thing I pride myself on at all three of my offices is correct training, actually telling people what it takes to be successful, telling people, look, don't worry about your commission check. Commissions will take care of themselves if you take care of the people. So when you take good care of a customer, they're going to take care of you. You'll get paid. They're going to give you more referrals than you can ever imagine, and then you'll make more money. And so I teach people how to do the business correctly to where they are good advocates for the community. And the money takes care of itself. You don't have mortgage written on your forehead because you don't know how you pay your mortgage that month. The community wants to take care of you because you take care of the community.
Hmm. Very good. That's super excellent. I started out at Century 21, so I have a great fondness for the
Awesome.
company as a whole. They've really come around in recent years. When I first moved over from San Francisco over to the East Bay, they were not as prevalent in the East Bay as so I ended up at a different company, but so I ended up at Coldwell Banker for quite some time. But Century 21 is a great company, and they've really changed. So what are some of the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, had to do with doing business in Nashville. What are some of the point of sale ordinances that you have to deal with in Tennessee? Do you have point of sale ordinances? What are some of the issues that you routinely come up against in selling houses in your area?
So the one thing with all the news of this NAR lawsuit and things like that, Tennessee has actually been a buyer broker state since 1996. We had really we had really done everything that NAR lawsuit told everybody else to do, except for we still had MLS, the compensation on the MLS. But all of our buyers agents were required to sign buyers agents of representation agreements all the way back to 1996. uh, Everything that this NAR told this lawsuit told all the other states they had to do, we've been on the forefront of forever.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's kind of an interesting thing when the NAR lawsuit, you had agents just going, "Well, we need to get out of the business. Our business is dead." Well, not really here. Nothing changed. We're just now everybody has to
Right,
do it. We were already doing
right.
things this way. Uh,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
so it was kind of an overblown situation. It really nothing much changes except for now the commission can't be on the MLS. You got to go call somebody to find out how much is going to be paid on the commission. Well, guess what? As an agent, you may find out some really good information on that phone call. What's
mhm.
how's that seller motivated? Do they need a fast close? They need to maximize their profit.
Right.
What
It's
they need
forcing communication is what it's doing.
it's forcing when you and I got into business, we were making that phone call just to set up a showing. Hey,
Exactly.
I'd like to set up 123 Main Street. What's your seller looking for? And so now it's just one more question. Hey, are you offering a buyer broker compensation and move forward? And
I will talk about the other side of that, which is that if you are not in a buyer broker state that's been handling these things this way since the 90s,
it's a massive pain.
it's a challenging conversation for some
Absolutely.
agents to have because they got into the business like after 2008. So they don't know what it feels like to go through a huge downturn. They don't know what it feels like to have to really hustle for a living because, fruit was just dropping into their mouths as they walked
Yeah,
by in some ways.
that's
Um,
right.
the buyer broker agreement, the thing that's great about it is that it forces a conversation. It forces a real conversation between buyers and their brokers.
Right.
The listing agent has always had to have that conversation with the sellers. You've always had a conversation about the commission. You've always had a conversation about what they want, what they expect of you, what you expect of them, all of that stuff that is outlined in that form. Having a buyer broker agreement just forces a buyer uh, and their client or their agent, I should say,
Do the
to
same.
have the same thing.
That's
Now,
right.
where it falls down a little bit is when buyers realize they're going to have to physically pay you in the event that a seller is not paying a commission.
Right.
And I will tell you this, by the way, where I have noticed sellers choosing not to pay commission is not in the normal bread and butter kinds of houses that we sell. It's all in the super upper end. Those are
That's
the
right.
people that are like, I don't want to pay commission. You can pay the commission, right? So I find that a statement on greed, frankly, more than anything else. But it seems to me that the problem that got created by the lawsuit is twofold. It should have been more black and white in some ways. There's this gray area that in an area where we have not been used to doing buyer broker agreements, people got confused. The market actually pretty much stopped while people were trying to figure it out. That's one part of it. The other part of it is just the damage that it has done to multiple listing services because
Absolutely.
sort of like union contracts. I'm a theater director when I'm not being a realtor,
Mhm.
and I work with a lot of union actors, and there if you look at those contracts, there's a reason behind every single clause in those contracts too. For example, that there has to be a cot in a dressing room. That seems really antiquated and stupid, and you wonder why there has to be a cot in a dressing room. Well, that's because back in the day, little children used to be forced to work 24/7 before union contracts, and they needed a place to sleep
Sure.
in the dressing room. So that's like a carryover from them, but that's why that's there. Well, same thing with offers of compensation in the multiple listing service. They spend
The
so much
contract.
time inuring us to the idea that part of the main reason why multiple listing services existed was because of the offer of compensation that could not be gone back on. That I think multiple listing services across the country are going to have trouble trying to state their worth and their value to their clientele, which is us, realtors, when they're charging lots and lots of money at the organizations to be part of that. What value are you getting for that money that you can't get on some other site? The other thing that multiple listing services have done over the years is they've given their information to companies like Zillow.
Absolutely. Number one.
And so stupid. So stupid. That was a big, big thing that we had.
And selling realtor.com.
Oh my God. Most of our listeners probably don't know that Realtor.com used to be owned by
They
the
are.
Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
it got sold to, who was it that bought it? Was it,
it's changed hands a couple times now, but I don't, Movado owns it now, I think.
oh my
Or
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
But adding on to your conversation, what this did, taking the compensation off the multiple listings, is it got rid of transparency. It is best for
Exactly.
it is best for the consumer for there to be a transparent marketplace.
Yeah.
And this got rid of the transparency of it. This created less transparency and more stuff in the dark and more stuff in the clouds. I actually had an agent walk into a situation, and it wasn't one of my agents, it was a friend of mine. Uh,
Hmm.
Walk into a situation where they made the phone call. Is there any compensation offered? Yes, it's this. Wrote the offer based off that conversation, and then came back and goes, "Oh, well, I never said the compensation was that." And luckily, the guy also followed up the phone call with a text message and verifying our conversation. The text message is this, and the guy had responded, "Yes, it is." And so, I mean, that's not good for the consumer.
No.
That part of the settlement got hurt the consumer, and we should
Yeah.
we as realtors should always be in promotion of the consumer. We are here as consumer advocates to do what is best for the consumer. That is our number one job, is to look out for the consumer. And this lawsuit, or this settlement, did not do what was best for the consumer.
I agree about that wholeheartedly. And I do believe that what it did was to play into the hands of Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all of these for-profit entities that are attempting to create platforms that go from end to end, where they can somehow figure out a way to get rid of realtors in the equation. I mean, again, whole reason behind my podcast is to point out why it is realtors are actually genuinely important. AI can't smell the inside of a house. AI can't intuit what the emotional situation is for the people that are selling the house or buying the house. AI cannot, so you can't push a button and buy a house. You can buy a car online that's brand new. If you look at all the specs and you go drive one at a place or not test drive one, you can buy that car brand new because there are going to be warranties in place of certain types and you know exactly what to expect. But all the housing stock is different. If you have, even if it's a planned urban development and all the houses are the same, but one's on the north facing corner and one's on the south facing corner, there could be radical differences in how that house reacts to sun, to water, to drainage, to, where the sewer line is. You don't know. So,
Absolutely.
so it's not going to be something where you can just cookie cutter buy a house online. And that's what they're hoping for. That is actually what they're hoping for. They want to compartmentalize what it is we do into a list of services that have a, pay scale set against them. And they want to turn us into order takers as opposed to the thinking, creative individuals that we are, that do our jobs to the best of our ability to serve our actual clientele.
That's right.
So yeah, it's really pathetic what's going on.
Well, and it's interesting in how this all came about. This lawsuit was settled in 2019, and then in 2020, a different political party took place, and it brought it back to the forefront and rehashed it after it was already taken care of. And now, if you read the latest articles on Inman, now the National Association of Realtors is asking the Supreme Court to look at the DOJ and ask why it got brought back to the forefront. And not to get political, because I don't want to do that.
Right.
But if that administration gets back into power next week and the DOJ changes to back to the DOJ that it was in 2019, does this lawsuit retroact?
I have no idea. That's above my pay grade, but I do believe that people who look at housing, who do not bother to talk in genuine ways to the realtor community, you cannot legislate around an entire profession. You have to talk to people that work in that profession. We have a bunch of mistakes here in our area. We have a sewer lateral ordinance that is absolutely onerous because the legislator realized, oh, if we make it so that the owner is responsible for the sewer line to where it meets with the city line in the street, then we will be cutting this much money out of our budget. Sounds like a simple fix, right? But when they wrote that legislation, they didn't take into account, and they did it back when the whole savings and loan crisis was occurring, by the way. They didn't take into account the little old lady on the hill who was selling her house in a short sale where there was a 300-yard sewer line going to the city street. And the person trying to buy her house was an FHA buyer who could only put 3% down. And so the house sale did not happen. And in the legislation, banks were exempted from having to fit this rule. So that lady loses her house. The person who wants to buy it can't buy it. And then the bank is able to take that house back in foreclosure and isn't subject to the regulation. Who writes these things? Well, that's why you got to get involved with your cities and why you've got to get involved and say things. As a realtor, you've got to say, hey, stop, you're doing something incredibly stupid,
Right.
And maybe someone will listen.
And if you are a realtor, be actively involved with the government affairs, be actively involved with RPAC. Look, RPAC looks at who these people are that are running for office. They vet, are they realtor friendly? Are they housing industry friendly? look, they're going to find people that are going to look out for the consumer advocacy of home buyers and home renters and people that actually, I mean, everybody needs housing. There's not one person that does not need housing. It is a need from all people.
Right.
The Association of Realtors looks out for those people.
Exactly.
And if you're a realtor, you should be looking at government affairs. You should be looking at RPAC. Those things, they look out for your best interest and the industry's best interest. And when I say industry, that means the community at large that needs housing. And
Exactly.
those are the people, those rules you're talking about with sewage. If RPAC and government affairs was active in that community, that should have been shut down because they would have found other actors to step in to make decisions that better impacted the community.
Bingo. 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 Well, you are the bomb, Shawn. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. I think that you are a great representative for our industry, and I really appreciated this conversation. Thank you so very much for being with me today. And
Thank you.
that's it for Realizations today, folks.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Realizations Podcast. I hope our conversation has shed light on the true essence of real estate and the people behind it. As we wrap up, I want to extend my gratitude to our listeners for their support and engagement. Your feedback drives the heart of this podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Realizations Podcast and leaving a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our message of positivity in the real estate industry. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, embrace empathy, and always seek the good in every situation. I'm Andrea Gordon signing off from Realizations. See you next time.